If you are wondering whether Chroy Wen is still relevant in the meta and if you must go and get him, the short answer here is yes, but I am biased though. The real answer is a little more complicated than that. Yo, welcome back to the channel. Kamusta po sa inyong lahat? And in this video, we're gonna talk about that. Version 3.2 introduces Sigrika, a character who heavily leans into echo skill damage. That alone explains why Chroy Wen conveniently shows up again on the banner schedule. Right now, he is the only character who directly amplifies echo skill damage in a major way. This buff increases echo skill damage by 50%, which is a huge multiplier for any unit built around that mechanic. On top of that, his liberation provides a 30% critical damage amp that lasts for 30 seconds. When you combine that with a character like Sigrika, the synergy becomes very obvious. If your main damage source is echo skill damage, Chroy Wen fits like a glove. That said, Chroy Wen is very much a buff bot. In fact, he might be one of the most straightforward buff bots in the entire game. His job is simple. He jumps in, drops his buffs, groups enemies together, and leaves the field so your main damage dealer can do the real work. If you remove echo skill scaling from the equation, Chroy Wen becomes more of a general utility support. He still deals a respectable amount of damage for a support. He can pull enemies together, which is extremely useful against groups, and his critical damage buff still benefits the entire team. That means he can technically slot into a variety of team compositions, especially those that fight large waves of enemies in WuWa. But then Mourn arrived, and that is where things became a little more interesting. Mourn brought a support kit that checks almost every box. She accelerates Tune Break, boosts team damage, provides around 30% critical damage amplification, and also keeps the team healthy through healing. Just like Chroy Wen, she barely needs field time to do her job. At first glance, that sounds like the kind of character who would push older units out of the spotlight. But surprisingly, that is not exactly what I see would happen. Instead of replacing Chroy Wen, Mourn can actually work alongside him. Their buffs stack well and both characters leave the field quickly, which means hyper carry units can enjoy a double support setup without losing damage uptime. When both of them are supporting a character like Galbrena, the damage output can get pretty wild. But even with that synergy, Chroy Wen remains a specialist. His biggest value still comes from supporting characters who rely heavily on echo skill damage. Galbrena benefits from it. Prolova benefits from it. But the real spotlight now belongs to Sigrika. Sigrika is essentially Chroy Wen's biggest test as a support. With proper investment and team setup, she can push roughly 1 million damage per rotation. However, reaching that level is not as simple as just slapping random gear on her. To get those numbers, she typically wants around 250% critical damage while also maintaining about 180% energy regen. That creates a small balancing act when building her because you cannot max out every stat at once. And this is where Chroy Wen quietly makes her life much easier. Since Sigrika gains critical rate through her ascension stats, Chroy Wen's critical damage amplification fills in the missing piece of the puzzle. Instead of desperately chasing more critical damage on every echo, you can lean more into critical rate and energy regeneration while letting Chroy Wen handle a portion of the damage scaling. Her echo set already gives around 20% critical rate to abilities that scale with echo skill damage. When you combine that with her signature weapon and decent echo rolls, it becomes very realistic to reach that 250% critical damage mark while Chroy Wen is on the team. Add another support such as Shorekeeper or Mourn and suddenly the numbers climb even higher. Those supports can contribute an additional 55 to 65% critical damage amp depending on the setup. At that point, Sigrika becomes far easier to build and more comfortable to play. And that is before we even talk about the echo skill damage bonuses. Chroy Wen alone already gives 50% amplification. Sigrika's weapon passive adds another 32%. The Sound of True Name set contributes another 20%. When you stack those together, you are already looking at over 100% echo skill amplification. For a character whose entire kit revolves around echo skill damage, that kind of multiplier is enormous. Even concerns about elemental damage are manageable. Her Echo setup already provides around 37% arrow damage, and the additional arrow resistance ignore from her weapon passive adds even more value. Because of that, many players can comfortably slot an energy regen Echo instead of chasing even more elemental damage. So, despite the jokes floating around the community, Chroy Wen is actually in a pretty strong spot right now. Some players underestimate him, sometimes for reasons that have nothing to do with gameplay. And we're talking about gender inequality. But from a purely mechanical perspective, he provides a lot of value. He boosts echo skill damage in a way no one else currently can. He offers critical damage amplification. He has extremely short field time. He groups enemies together, and he does all of this with relatively low investment. Those traits also make him fairly future proof. Any future resonator who relies on echo skill damage will almost automatically need Chroy Wen as a support partner. Even outside of that niche, his utility alone makes him a comfortable addition to many team compositions. The clumping ability, the quick buffs, and the extra damage amplification are all things most hypercarry teams appreciate. So yes, Chroy Wen is still relevant in the meta. The bigger question is whether you should actually pull for him right now, and that is where things get a little tricky. His rerun sits in a very awkward position. It is placed between Amith and the anniversary banners, which means a lot of players are already trying to protect their asterite savings. So if you are planning to pull Sigrika at the same time, the pressure on your resources becomes even higher because she is not exactly a low investment character. You will also need her weapon. You have no choice here. Because of that, my recommendation is fairly simple. If you do not already have characters like Galbrena or Prolova, it might be wise to skip Chroy Wen for now. But if you have Amit, you may want to skip and just go for Denia if she is indeed her best support for Fusion Burst. However, if you already run teams built around Galbrena or Prolova, then grabbing Chroy Wen is a very solid upgrade. Very logical to get him. Once you secure him, you can decide whether you want to pursue Sigrika immediately or simply wait for her eventual rerun, which could realistically happen around version 3.6 to 3.7. Either way, Sigrika is shaping up to be one of the most explosive damage dealers Wuthering Waves has seen so far, and pairing her with the right support only pushes that potential even further. So while Chroy Wen might look like a simple buff bot on paper, the reality is that he continues to play a very important role in the evolving meta. As always, if this video resonated with you, please leave a like and subscribe, ring that bell for massive gotcha luck, and maybe a sandwich. Thank you so much for watching. Maraming salamat po, and I will see you in my next video drop. Goodbye.